Alright guys, so sort of some short notes today. We're going to solve systems of equations using elimination. Again, it's called day 2 because we're going to do it a little bit more difficult. So I can solve a more difficult system of equations using elimination. So today we're going to look at problems that are extremely similar to yesterday. The only difference is that I'm going to make it one step harder. Before we do that though, I want to start off by doing it graphically instead of algebraically like we have been. So would you try these two, pause the video for a second, try it, and then unpause it when you're good? All right, hopefully that was enough time. I filled it all in for us just so we can see. Our slope is -1/2. Our y-intercept is 0, -1 for that first line, so I put 0, -1, and I went down 1/2. For the other line, it was 1/4 and 0, -4. So I started down here at 0, -4, and I went up 1/4. What is that coordinate that they're touching? To me, it looks like it's 4, -3. So hopefully we are confident with that by now, because that's old. Today, though, when we flip the next page, we're going to take a look at something sort of new. Yesterday in each system, there was at least one variable that had an opposite coefficient. Today, I'm going to make it harder by giving you systems that don't have this, sort of like the last one on the notes yesterday. So taking a look at this, yesterday we said, well, we could just add these together. But if I just added these together, 2x and x makes 3x, and 5y and -3y makes +2y, which that does not help us. So today, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to do that step 1 that I said, or that step 2 that I said I already have done for you. So let's go back up here and let's review what that step 2 is. So again, step 1 is just write the system so like terms are aligned, which they are. If you look down there, the x's are on top of the x's and the y's are on top of the y's. So that's fine, but step 2 is different. Step 2 is not done for us today. It says, if necessary, multiply one or both equations to make the opposite amount of one of the variables. Now, if you look down here, is there an opposite amount of x's? Is 2 and 1 opposite? Nope. How about 5 or -3? Are those opposite? So obviously the answer is no to both of those. So today is about this step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this top one. So do it with me, please. And now I'm going to ask you, if I had a perfect world, what would I put underneath this 5y in order to get rid of it? Well, obviously I'd put a -5y. Is there anything you can do to -3 to make it look like -5? Is there anything you could multiply it by? Well, if you multiply it by 2, you already get to 6, so no. But how about underneath this x? Let's try this now. Well, if there's 2 x's, how many x's do you want underneath it? Obviously, you want -2x's. Is there anything you could do to this 1 right here to make it look like -2? Is there anything that you could multiply it by? Well, yeah, I could multiply that 1 by -2. Because what's 1 times -2? -2x. And you can do that under one condition. You can do that if you multiply that -2 not just to that x, to everything in that bottom equation. So instead of the next term being -3y, it's +6y. And instead of that last term being 10, it's -20. So that's what step 2 is. That is what we did not have to do yesterday, and that's what's making this notes a little bit more difficult. Because now, step 3, when I add the two equations together, now I have an opposite amount of one of these variables. I have an opposite amount of the x's. They make 0, just like we did yesterday. And you have 11y's is -11. And now you can take either one of those and divide by 11 and end up getting y is -1. Okay, and that's really it. So now you can plug into any of these equations that we see up here to find our x. I'm going to take this guy, x minus 3y is equal to 10. Obviously, you do not have to do that one. I just like this one. You'll see why here in a second. Because now it just says x. -3 times -1 is +3 is 10. And now it's just a one-step equation, -3 on both sides. And you end up getting x is 7. And that's really the rest of... And that really is just step 4, 5, and 6 too. Step 4 is to solve the equation with only one variable. We did. That was down here. Step 5 substitute we did, that was right here, into either equation. And then step 6, write it as an ordered pair. I guess we haven't done that yet. So what would my ordered pair be? Would it be -1, 7 or 7, -1? Obviously 7, -1. So I have, I think, 1 or 2 more examples for us to try, and then some for you to do. So would you please flip to the next page? Example 2. Once you guys get good at this, you'll know which ones to do, because there's going to be multiple ways you could do this. For this example 2, just from experience, I know the best thing to do is to multiply this top one by something. Now, am I going to be able to make an opposite amount of x's like I did last time? Is there anything I could multiply 7 by to make it the opposite of 8? And obviously the opposite of 8 is -8. Is there any way I could do that? Obviously not. But I have 2 and 2. Could I just make one of them -2? And how do I make a 2 and -2? What do I have to multiply it by? Obviously a -1. So now let's multiply everything in this top one by -1. Because here's how I figured out -1. This is always the hardest part for people to get, but it'll click. What do I want underneath this 2y to make it go away? Obviously a -2y. So let's make that a -2y by multiplying by -1. But then remember, you also got to do it to everything else to make it okay math-wise. So -7x and -24. So now when I do that, I end up getting 0. I end up getting 1x, or just x, is 6. Which is good. That's one variable. So now I can plug that into either one of these. It really doesn't matter. I don't know. Let's do the bottom one, just for fun. 8x plus 2y is 30. I'm going to take this 6 from down here and plug it in right here because it's an x, and I end up getting 48 plus 2y is 30. Minus both sides by 48. I end up getting 2y is -18. And I got to divide both sides by 2. And I end up getting y is -9. So now when I make my coordinate, it is 6, -9. All right, I have 2 for you guys to try. I'm going to help you out with this first one. Why don't we multiply this top equation by, anyone think they know what it is? Well, if we want to get rid of the y's, what are we going to multiply that top one by? 4. And then for number 2, just to help us out here, there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. Just so you follow the same road that I do, would you please multiply, let's say, this top one by -1. Okay? So you'll see what happens there. Pause the video, do those 2 things, do some elimination for me, unpause it to check your answers when you are done. Hopefully that was enough time for you to pause it. If I rewrite this top one, or this bottom one, sorry, is equal to -14, and multiply this top one by 4 like I asked you guys to do, I end up getting 8x, -4y, that's why I wanted to do it. Take a look at how many y's I'm going to have now. And don't forget, here's a spot where you're going to mess up if you do, 36. So now when I do this, I end up getting 11x, 0, and anyone know what 36 minus 14 is? 22. So now let's divide both sides by 11, and we end up getting x is 2. What do I need to do after that? I need to plug it back into either one of these. We said x was 2. Why don't we do, the top one looks easier, but there's that negative there that scares me. I'm still going to do that bottom one. Just, I can't stand negatives. So now let's plug into here. We said x was 2 from down here. So now 2, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 4y is -14, minus 6 on both sides. I end up getting 4y is -20. Divide everything by 4, and y is -5. Okay, so when I make my coordinate, or when you made your coordinate, hopefully it said 2, -5. Let's move on to the back, and we are done. So if you multiply this top one by -1, I'm going to go -1x, -1y, there's my elimination right there, and -12. Make sure that you have a -12. Because here you're going to just get x is equal to 6 minus 12, because I got rid of this one, remember? 6 minus 12 is -6. And look how easy that is now because I can take either one of those. I'm going to take the top one. It just says x plus y is, I think it's x plus y is 12. Yep. And I'm going to take this negative 6 from right here, and I'm going to plug it into the x. I'm going to add 6 to get rid of it, and I end up getting y is 12 plus 6, 18. Okay? So if y is 18, x is negative 6, my coordinate is negative 6, comma, 18. And my some final thoughts down here. A solution to a system is where the two lines meet. So our solution is always a point or a coordinate. When using elimination, we need opposite coefficients before we add the coefficients. What I mean by that is the opposite of 3x is negative 3x. And we do this because we cannot solve an equation with two variables. All right, guys, that is it. Thank you for watching.